Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I am John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic today. Let's do it. What's the stupidest thing you've ever heard someone say that they 100% believed? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. When I was a kid, and on and off when I was older until after it was decommissioned, my dad worked at a nuclear power plant. I was mentioning this to a college-aged coworker at one point. I think I was telling a story about taking your daughter to work day or something, and the coworker stopped me. Wait, those are really real? I stopped talking at a loss for words. I then had her repeat what she wanted to know. Nuclear power plants are actually real things? I thought they were made up for like The Simpsons. I pieced out a chicken for frying, and threw the spine and other trimmings in a pot with water to boil up for broth. Hubby blew a gasket, insisting we couldn't possibly eat that because there'd be raw chicken in the pot. Yes, it was raw, but it's cooked with the water to become broth. It took a solid 10 minutes of arguing with him that I wasn't going to give us food poisoning by cooking a chicken carcass to make broth. I'd been making chicken broth this way for a decade by that time, but it was the first time he'd observed me doing so. I was going 30 in a 30. A police officer pulled me over and claimed I was going 50. The dashcam footage of the police officer showed that the officer was going 40 to close the distance and pull me over. Some genius on Facebook said, if you were going 30, then why did the officer have to go 40 to catch up? I'm like, if by some bizarre circumstance you're actually being serious here, you have to go faster than whatever it is you're following in order to catch up. Years ago, I was in a grocery store with my dad, who's a very loud anti-PC, anti-woke type. We were next to one of those waist-high chest freezers, and my dad got his cart slightly stuck on one of the bumper rails for a second. He starts going off about how dumb it is that liberals make stores put in these stupid poles around the freezers just so midgets can stand on them to look in the freezer. Me and my sister both stared at him for what felt like a solid minute before realizing he was dead-ass serious before explaining that the rails were actually to prevent people from ramming their carts into the freezer and, in fact, had nothing to do with the little people. We still make fun of him for the midget pole to this day. So, supposing we hit the body with a tremendous light, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it? And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. It sounds interesting. And then I see the disinfectant, and it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see, it gets into the lungs, and it does a tremendous number on the lungs. So it would be interesting to check that out. Just a little context, as this story lacked the last sentence, was put in later in the file, so I'm just going to tell you now. This was someone explaining to someone else what they thought was a cure for COVID. So that's what that was. Hope that helps. Have a great day, guys. My aunt is a comedically religious, but other than that, I had to explain to an adult who works in Potter County, Pennsylvania, making educational decisions for hundreds of children, approving books, lessons, etc., where the sun goes at night, and that the moon is not, in fact, the sun after it's gone out for the night. When I argued very basic evolution stuff, they said, it sounds like some bullshit liberal book learnt nonsense. I cannot understand the level of control this person has in education for this county, and their position is either elected or immediately appointed by an elected official. Once, my class had to give a presentation about a living space we designed so that humans could inhabit it. The whole point was to have a reasonably realistic but innovative design and have some fun. After all, summer was a week or so away. A girl who wasn't known for being the sharpest tool in the shed went up to present her project. After she was done, she accepted questions about her design. A student raised their hand and asked, "How would you simulate gravity?" To which she replied, as if it were a stupid question about something she had covered in her presentation, trees. The whole class burst out laughing, and the girls flabbergasted. We had to tell her that wasn't how gravity worked. Another story of mine. We were watching a documentary in class about African culture, mainly the music. A student raised their hand and asked the teacher what language they were speaking. But before the teacher could respond, another student blurted out, "African, duh." The teacher calmly stated that they were speaking French and that Arabic wasn't a language. Shortly after that, the girl left class crying. Oh boy, I love this one. There was a guy I was dating shortly after college, and we'd gone on a couple of dates. I took him to the beach for an evening walking date, and at some point, as it started to get darker, we found a spot to sit down and chat and cuddle and just enjoy the sound of the waves crashing on the shore. After a few minutes on the horizon over the waves, this unbelievably red shape appeared. The color was so unusual and beautiful that at first I thought it was some sort of party cruise. It quickly became apparent that it was the moon in a color I'd only seen in pictures. Absolutely beautiful. We sat and watched the moon rise, and after a few minutes he asked me, "Wait, is it going to keep rising?" I turned and looked at him absolutely befuddled and said, yeah. That's so cool. Trying to understand how he was just learning this. I asked, "Didn't you take science class in school?" "Yeah, but I didn't really pay attention to them." Indeed. To his credit, and to the deepening of my confusion, he somehow immediately jumped to the conclusion that the moon was rising because it revolves around the Earth. This one guy on YouTube made a video of him in his car, and he was warning people not to eat seedless watermelons or any other fruit without seeds, because he deadass thought that they had to be fake food, that were made in a lab. He didn't mean like genetic modifying either. I mean like literally grown in a lab one by one. And legit, the real reason why so many health issues exist in our society, and that big produce was just trying to hide this to purposefully kill us, etc. I can't make this shit up. The sad part was that 99.9% of people in the comments agreed with him. Like, how can you be that ignorant about how the foods you eat every day are grown and how plants work when the internet exists? He told me his gynecostoma, male's growing breast, was from eating too much chicken breast and refused to listen to me when I said the over-the-counter testosterone he was taking probably had prolactin in it, or something that causes one's body to start producing more prolactin, as the D portion of the FDA does not monitor supplements, and they therefore don't have to contain what they say they can contain. The F just has to make sure it won't kill you, and even then, that's not true for online supplements, but he got his stuff at Walmart. Yeah. The thing that isn't even a mammal was not what caused him to grow breasts. A friend's mother fell hard for a scammer's act. Her husband was a fisherman who went missing at sea 30 years ago, so obviously he had been declared dead a long time ago. Some dude slides into her DMs, claiming to be him. She lived her life online with no privacy settings. She sent £10,000 for a luxury hotel for him to stay in, and flew to Rome to meet him. And that's after sending him significantly more for all the other things he asked for so they could be reunited. Astonishingly, he did not in fact meet her at the airport, and the hotel had no booking in his name or hers. We all really thought that'd be the one that finally let her realize this guy she'd been speaking to online was not in fact her dead husband. Instead, totally serious, she said, "Well, it's not that unusual for him to go silent for a while. That doesn't mean it's not him." He was back in her DMs a week later, making excuses about his passport going missing. She totally believed it. So back in high school, I had a friend who goofed around quite a bit. Well, grade 12 came around and shit started getting real, and he thought now was a good time to start studying, a few months before graduation. Anyway, he asks me to tutor him in history because I'm pretty good at it and we're friends, so we set up a study date. I get to his place and instantly realize he doesn't have any clue where most countries are in Europe. That's fair. It could be tough when you're first learning, so I figured we'd better just go over the map to start. I pull out an atlas his dad had, this is pre-internet, and he suddenly turns to me and goes, "Hey, what are the months?" And I'm like, for a particular battle, or? And he goes, no, the months, April and October and shit. How do they go? Bro had spent so much time goofing off in school that he literally did not know the order of the months at 18 years old. I worked at a bank many years ago. I got a call one day from a guy who was disputing his overdraft fees. I told him that his charges went in on Thursday, but his direct deposit didn't go in until Friday. He said, "We both know that the direct deposits go in at midnight. Midnight doesn't belong to either day. So you guys could have chosen to put it on the Thursday side. You just wanted the fees. Guy got his fees back because you paid for that kind of entertainment." My old roommate believed with his whole heart that using electronics before bed kept you awake because the Wi-Fi signal in the air hits your brain and makes your brain cells vibrate, keeping you up at night. And there was no talking him out of it. He moved out about 6 months before COVID hit, and I'm so happy because I couldn't have dealt with him during that. I guarantee he refused to get the vaccine or wear a mask, and he would have believed all of the right-wing propaganda about it. Nice. At a frat party, this girl went to my room to get sodas for us out of a mini fridge. It had one of those vertical slots with rails for stacking them sideways so you could pull them out of the bottom. She was gone for a long time, and we started to wonder. She came back and, in her, to be fair, pretty wasted southern accent, said, "It's so hard to get Cokes out y'all's refrigerator. First you gotta slide them up one at a time and then try and dig them out." When I was a full-fledged, not apprentice tattoo artist that had about 5 years working in a reputable shop, we had a guy come in who had questions about a tattoo, but he kept trying to talk only to my male coworker, who would then redirect him to the fact that I'm more than capable of helping him and doing the tattoo. But the guy kept talking only to my male coworker, and my coworker redirected him again back to me, where it finally clicked that I was an actual tattoo artist. At which point, he said the stupidest thing I've ever heard someone say. "Oh, I didn't know girls could tattoo these days. I thought they were just the secretary." My guy, what? He'd be shocked to know that we can even vote and wear pants now. Really? That's got to be a toss-up between my best friend saying he could probably take Ronda Rousey in a fight because he's a dude, or my ex who saw the theory of relativity on TV and declared that it was made by ancient Egyptians. I'm guessing the square root symbol reminded her of the Eye of Horus or something. And when I corrected her and said it was created by Einstein, she said, "Ah yes, Frank Einstein. Bitch, do you think I'm talking about Frankenstein?" She had some other gems as well, like birds and fish aren't animals, they're birds and fish. I go to the chemist fairly often to buy medications, and sometimes they have cheaper chemist brand medications, which I always buy because I know they're chemically identical. It is amazing how many people will opt for the expensive brand because of the branding. I've occasionally tried to explain to them that they are the same thing, but they won't have it. Similarly, I've had girls tell me they buy certain things because they're natural, when there is a cheaper alternative that has been synthesized in a factory that contains the exact same active ingredients. Just because something's natural doesn't mean it's better or even different. I'm a chemical engineer, by the way. Oh, I have a friend who believed women didn't poop. He asked with a straight face if they did or not. We were stunned, but without hesitation I confirmed they didn't. He then asked, "But how do they get rid of their waste?" I said, "Through urination. See, women don't poop because it helps them attract a mate. They're more attractive to men if they don't poop. But my niece has taken poops. I've seen the ones she leaves in the toilet before," he says. I then confirmed that before puberty girls do poop. Once they reach puberty, it stops. And they won't poop normally until they've acquired a mate and had a child. After that, they begin to poop again. I was able to say all this while being completely serious, and he believed it as it made sense to him. At least until a week later, when we met up again, and he was pissed off at me for making him ask his grown-up female relatives if what I said was true. We were dying to learn that he actually asked a woman if they pooped. We knew he was kind of an airhead, but geez. I've always been scientifically inclined, and a friend started going out with some guy. We were sitting having drinks and chatting one night about various things, and the conversation turned to deep and meaningful existential topics like human history, etc. He started waffling on about this book, about how humans came from an ancient civilization on Mars that built pyramids, etc., and they had gone underground as the planet died, and that they sent spaceships to Earth from time to time to study us. At first I thought he was joking, that he believed it, but he was convinced. I, of course, said it was all nonsense and went into why, but he was adamant. It's amazing to me that uneducated people believe crazy things because they were in a book. Their reasoning before or being that it must be true if someone wrote a book about it really shook me up. I live in the UK, and recently there's been a lot of bother being shared by far right-wing groups about refugees coming into the country for asylum, etc. In the part of the country where I live, there was a hotel that was being taken over to house refugees, and this caused a lot of outrage. So much so that the local MP, Member of Parliament, aka a total wanker, organized a town meeting for people to share their views and opinion. What could possibly go wrong? You know those scenes in parks and recreation where the community comes out and they make baseless and ridiculous claims that are also kind of funny? It was basically like that. But the comment in particular has always stuck with me. This lady stood up and, with full confidence, said, "I find it incredible that these people are coming into our country, but we are never told where they're coming from. It's always, oh, they're fleeing civil wars. But if that's the case, why are they coming here? We have civil wars in this country." Now, this surprised me, as I was blissfully unaware of the United Kingdom's civil wars that were taking place to this day. Do you think it would have popped up once or twice? Maybe she saw an advertisement for that Captain America film and thought it was the same thing.